Hey, what's up everybody? Joshua Casper back at you with Plugin Boutique, and today I'm going to get you started with the Multiphonics CV-1 from Applied Acoustics Systems. This is a virtual modular synth that can do absolutely incredible things. In this video, I'm going to show you how to get started making your first pluck, and then later on your first bass. But before we do that, let's check out some of these amazing presets just so we can get an idea of what this thing is capable of. And trust me, you're going to be impressed. Okay, so as I said in the beginning of the video, we're going to be doing a tutorial, and I'm going to show you how to make this sort of lead pluck. And it's actually incredibly easy to do, and along the way, I'm going to show you some of the basics about getting sound produced and output from Multiphonics. What I'm going to do first is come up here and just hit new, and that's going to clear everything out except for this master channel up here. Another thing to point out is Multiphonics CV-1 has built-in delay and reverb sense. In some modular, well actually in most modular synths and in modular plugins, you're actually going to have those as modules, but it's actually really helpful just to have them there ready to go in this side. So those are there. But the first thing we want to do is create sound. So we create sound with an oscillator, and they're inside of the audio generators menu, and it's just called the classic VCO. When I drop it in there, nothing is going to happen. What I need to do is take an output and put it to the output of the master, which will then get piped into my DAW. If I do that with the square wave here, it's just going to be a steady square signal getting pumped out. And I'll have to use my volume to get rid of the sound. So I'm going to disconnect that. And what we want to do is control it with our keyboard. If I press my keyboard right now, you'll see that some things happen. Velocities showing up, and all of these are triggering over here. If I hold a key down, you'll see that the gate is staying open, and when I release, it releases as well. You also might have noticed that when I hit the key, the trigger happens once, and when I release the key, the trigger happens again. We're actually just going to use the gate because it's the simplest for our purposes here. And in order to use that gate to trigger the sound, we're actually going to have to use what's called a VCA, or voltage controlled amplifier. And that's down here, VCA. If I click and drag that right there, you'll see that now we have an input and output. I'm going to gloss over what a VCA actually is, but just know, you know what an amplifier is, I'm assuming, if you're watching this video. Just picture it exactly like that. We're going to get no signal, and then we want to amplify the signal based on an input and output. So from the VCA, we want to go out to the system. And now I can turn up the output again. Double click, we'll set it to 0 dB. And I want to take my output square wave and go into that. And in terms of trigger, I want to trigger it by the gate. So there we go. That's the basics. Now when I press the keys on my keyboard, I'm going to get sound whenever I press them. But that's a little bit boring. So we want to use what's called an ADSR, or a detect, decay, sustain, release. I'm going to put it right in between those two. And this is just like any other synth that you've ever used. We're going to use that to shape the sound whenever we press the key on the keyboard. So now from the gate, we want to go into the gate of the ADSR. And then we're saying, hey, pay attention to attack, decay, sustain, and release, and then go out into the VCA, and then go out to the output. Turn down the attack, pull up the release. And now we've got the shape of the sound, but notice what's happening here. If I press different keys on my keyboard, it's the same sound over and over again. But if you look right here on the keyboard section of that master strip, we actually have a pitch control. And this is what we're gonna be looking to use to say, hey, it's a different pitch, so play the different pitch inside of the VCO. So if you look on the VCO, there's actually a pitch input. So we can just take that, connect it to the pitch, and then if I hit some keys, boom. So we are well on our way to a decent sound. Let's listen to the MIDI clip I have in this project to hear what this sounds like. In fact, let me go ahead and I've got a sidechain on there just to add a little bit more pump. I'm gonna turn that off, and this is what we got. I mean, that's good enough. You've already made your first pluck, but we can actually shape that sound a little bit more with a filter. So inside of our modules over here, we have a state variable filter. I'm gonna go ahead and drag and drop that on there. And now, instead of going out direct into the output of the master channel, I'm gonna go into the filter. And then I'm gonna come out of the filter, let's just say to the output. And boom, you know what I mean? We again are well on our way to shaping our sound. However, wouldn't it be cool if we had an ADSR envelope just for the state of the state variable filter? That way we can shape how the filter is opening and closing over time. And when we combine that with the VCO and the ADSR that we already have, we'll really start to shape the sound. So what we need to do is add another ADSR here inside of the project. Right here, drag and drop. And for this one, we're gonna take the output here and slide it right here. So something's happening, right? It's almost like it's looping here, but it's not exactly doing what we would expect it to do. And the reason why is it's not getting controlled or re-triggered by the gate. And that's what we're looking to do. So what we can do is actually have multiple outputs from this. I'm gonna take that gate and put it right here. And you'll see now that we're starting to get the shape that we're looking for the filter, and we're really starting to shape the sound. I'm gonna pull the cutoff down and turn that growl all the way down. And that's it, that's the sound. Now if we turn the reverb send up, maybe just a little bit of delay, we can actually come in here and I'm gonna turn down the amount, I'm gonna turn down the feedback and the delay. So now we have our control over the cutoff, we have control over the envelope for the filter as well, so we can really So let's listen to that in the context of the track we're working with. And we've made our very first pluck sound inside of Multiphonics CV-1 fairly easily and actually quite quickly. But what I want to show you now, right, is that we can actually change this patch into a bass patch very, very easily. So what I'm going to do I'm going to close out of here. I'm going to jump into this one. I'm going to delete the instance of Multiphonics, turn off that sidechain compressor for a second, jump back over here, and let's go ahead and copy that and put it down here and solo the channel. All right, so this is the same patch, and now it's obviously just lower on the keyboard, and it already sounds kind of bassy. But let's get rid of that square wave and use the sub square wave over here. And boom, that's already a pretty gnarly bass line. But let's pull the cutoff down and get closer to a sub. And if I pull the decay time down over here, we can really start to just make it a punchy kind of transient for the bass, and then let the rest be the subby end. And now that we're on a bass, you know, the growl might come in handy depending on what kind of music we're working on. And now let's listen to that in the context of the track. And of course, we got to put a sidechain compressor on there. And we can also make some further tweaks by removing the delay and reverb sends, adjusting the cutoff of the filter, and of course, tweaking our ADSR for both the VCO and the filter until we get a shape of the sound that we really like. And there we go. Now we have a bass line using essentially the same patches we had in our Pluck lead, and we've done it in no time, and it sounds absolutely fantastic. Anyway, this is available already on pluginboutique.com, so definitely click the link in the video description to check it out in full detail. And as always, I'm Joshua Casper here. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next video.